Good morning.
There is an accident down the road.
So where can I take you today?
It's clear that driving taxis involves more than just transporting people from point A to point B. A taxi driver has to think about customer service, defensive driving, cross-cultural issues, plus keeping a well-presented and maintained vehicle. While these skills build professionalism, at the end of the day, people drive taxis for money. So how do you make the most out of all those hours on the road and the effort you put in? This video is about personal financial management. We talk to some experienced drivers and hear their views on how to increase earnings. We've also asked some financial and small business experts for their opinions. Managing your financial affairs is a very personal issue. What may work for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. So treat the following comments purely as information and decide for yourself what suits your lifestyle.
So the very first problem for a beginner driver is not what's the deal, because in the larger sense that doesn't matter. Whether he's driving for an owner who's screwing him down for every cent, or whether he's driving for an owner who deals in rounded figures and doesn't care, and there are both kinds out there, that doesn't matter at first. That's a later problem. The first problem for a beginner is this industry for me? Can I do it? Do I like it? Am I going to stay full-time or part-time?
Some owners ask for a straight 45%, some owners ask for 50-50, some owners give you a set pay-in level that you pay a certain amount by when you take the cab out at each shift.
Establishing with the owners sets the whole precedence in your working development to set up your relationship when you first start. Whether it's in writing or just by you asking questions and getting straight answers from your owner to establish a relationship.
With the agreement that most drivers come to with the company that they drive for, most of the drivers are aware that they are on an excess themselves. They have to pay the insurance excess because they have to understand that the owner is not driving the cab. If they have a collision and they are at fault, and those two words are very important, at fault, in a collision, then they are up for the insurance excess.
First observation to make is that as a driver sitting behind the wheel of my cab, there is nothing I can do about the macro, the big picture. I can't control what our Canberra politicians or our state politicians are doing, what the global economy is doing. There are things that I can't affect. So I make sure that I don't worry about them. Okay? I just let them go. I can't reach them. What I can do is affect my own little universe behind the wheel of the cab. And the first rule there is if you do the time, you'll make the money.
Main one is the stress if you allow yourself to worry about the dollars and not just let them flow. If you have a bad shift, get out of your system. Even a bad hour, get out of your system, get that discipline back. Surprising how it will soon pick up for you. All it takes is one good run in every shift to make a good night out of a bad night.
There is no goddess of cab drivers, okay, who hands out good shifts and bad shifts. The driver who's using self-discipline, who's using ability, who's using acquired skill, who's using persistence, he's the one who'll make the money.
The fluctuating income is always a problem for small business people when they first start out because they have a good week and they get $1,000 in for that week, and it's the week of the Ekka and boy, this is money to spend. And other weeks it's $300 for the week because everyone's out of town on holidays. So what I say to people is basically do your budgeting about what sort of income you need to live on, and have a couple of bank accounts. One is sort of very simplistically that you put away a bit of money into the bank account to actually look after your tax, and then another account which is perhaps your joint account with your wife where the money goes in for living expenses. So you might put $400 a week into that every week, a couple $100 into the account for tax, and then the other balance of money just stays in the cab account, if you like. So that you actually, just basically, that the $400 a week is going to come into your joint account, and you can actually treat it a bit like a wage coming in.
We've got one great thing in our industry. You can drive as many shifts as you want to. If you've got a set goal financially, You're getting behind, why not just do one extra shift? Makes a lot of difference to your income and cuts the stress down.
So the next technique after self-discipline is pacing yourself. Okay? I said you can't do anything about the macro picture, and that's true, but there are all sorts of things you can do about the picture of the little scene that you're driving in right here. After a little bit of experience, you know that if school holidays are starting this Friday, for example, then the Thursday, Friday and Saturday coming, you are going to be putting in maximum effort. That's the time when you'll do the longer shift. That's the time when you'll do an extra shift. Because the next week, if it's a 2-week holiday, in the middle of the week, that's when things will be quietest. The greatest number of people are away, the greatest number of people have kids at home and are not moving in their normal patterns, and so work will have fallen off.
Generally, we try to teach all the new cab drivers to keep money out of sight. You wouldn't walk into a pub with your pocket bulging with $50 notes. It's a dangerous habit. Same in the cab, you don't leave large notes on display. You keep them well and truly hidden, whether it be in your back pocket or even when you do get large notes in your little bag in the boot or something of that nature.
The first thing is that a modern taxi by law is fitted with an alarm button. A button somewhere in the driving compartment accessible by the driver's fingers or knees or reachable by the driver that he can use in emergency, in a life-threatening situation, to activate a hidden microphone and send a signal independent of his normal transmission to the base, letting him know I am in trouble and allowing the base to listen into the car. So one of the very first duties of care that a driver has to himself when he gets behind the wheel of a particular car for the first time is find the button. There's no rule on where the button is. That's kind of a safety procedure in itself, to stop automaticity, to stop regularity, so that a crim might learn, make sure when you're hoisting a driver he doesn't touch this spot on the dash.
Generally, you tell people, if they ask you, are you having a big night, and they're virtually fishing to see whether you've got a large amount of money, you always tell them, I've just started.
It's worth observing first up that cash actually as a proportion of a driver's take is slowly decreasing. The trend shows that over time cash diminishes. It's becoming less and less. Plastic money is increasing. Having said that, cash still at this time remains a significant part of your take, certainly.
You've got to be fairly trusting, because you can't go and check every time somebody gets in the cab. You can't carry all the credit card bad lists with you and say to everybody, look, I'm going to check the list before I accept your card. With the majority of people, they are people that can be trusted. As I said once before, I started driving cabs in 1969, and I've accepted checks and credit cards in all that time. I've never had a credit card go bad on me, and I think 2 small checks in all that time have ever bounced.
There is no legal requirement for a driver to take a check. Okay? As in any business anywhere, checks not accepted unless by prior arrangement, and the same thing applies in the taxi industry. Having said that, many customers do like to use checks, and so in an operation like ours, we offer the driver a choice. On his profile in our dispatch system, he can say, yes, I will accept checks, or no, I won't.
But of course, if you accept a check from anybody, a personal check, you're going to get them to write their name, address, their license number on the back of it, all that sort of thing for added security.
In Queensland, you can ask for money up front. As soon as a person gets into your cab and you feel a little bit doubtful of them, you're at liberty to say, sir, I'm a little bit doubtful. I know you're an honest person and you won't mind paying a deposit up front.
Once they have a card that is in a system that you use, then your basic requirement is to make sure it's a current card. Okay? Now, look at it. Look at the expiry date.
When looking at sort of moving from that transition to just being a driver to an owner, I guess the biggest change in approach really is that you actually have an asset or some assets to deal with, and usually have some people working for you. So in doing that, the first thing I guess you'll really look at is the amount of money you need to do that, and set some objectives about the sort of cash flows that you can expect, the sort of profitability you can expect, set some real, perhaps some longer term planning in place as to where you might want to be in 5 or 10 years' time.
There's plenty of examples in our company of people starting driving. The next step is to lease a cab and operate as your own small business as well. And the third step, of course, ultimately is to buy one and get other people to drive and do the work for you.
If you think of it as a job, you'll make a living. If you think of it as a business, you'll make a killing. And it's the planning that is so essential. If you plan and make a business of it and go about it the right way, it's a wonderful business to be in and you can make good money.
When you're leasing a cab, it's a relationship you'll set out in a contract form approved by the company. Now, it's got to be approved by all levels, and that sets out all the arrangements you'll make. The owner might be absentee. If so, your weekly payments or monthly payments, ever agreed on beforehand, will be paid on the manner prescribed. The other expenses, apart from that, your base fees, you'll pay a monthly fee. You've got to make your own insurance adjustments, workers' compensation. They're all part of the lessee's bugbear.
Saving enough money to have a substantial deposit, and you really do need a substantial deposit. If you've got a very minor deposit and you try to get into the industry by going and fishing for a big loan, it's a millstone that you tie around your neck and it can make life very difficult for you.
The skills involved in running a taxi or managing a taxi business are really the same as any other business. You have to know how to handle money, you have to know how to handle people, and you have to know, when to replace vehicles, when to make decisions about repairs. All those sorts of things are very similar in lots of other industries.